Story 1. Haven't seen this yet, and it's a big one. I have no clue how to do my daughter's hair. I've had advice from female friends, my female hairdresser, the internet, but my daughter's hair permanently looks like she was dragged through a haystack. Her mom is no longer in the picture, so she spends all of her time with me. I've taken her to my hairdresser, who fixed my daughter's hair so it looked beautiful. I took notes, photos, and bought the same equipment and products. 2 days later, her hair was a bird's nest again. I worried at first that people would think I was negligent. Now I don't really care because I know I'm a great dad. Story 2. Where is his mother? He lives with me. I have custody. Why isn't he with his mother? She is a drunk. He should still be with his mother. Her boyfriend hits him. He should still be with his mother. Story 3. When I go to parent-teacher interviews with my ex-wife, the teachers speak directly to my ex the vast majority of the time. This isn't a hardship, but it is unintentionally disrespectful. Story 4. It's been mentioned, but strangers saying things like, "Oh, is it daddy-daughter day?" or "giving mom a break today," are tough in our situation because mom is deceased. I handle it fine, but my little lady still gets upset more often than not. Can't blame the strangers, though. They don't know. Edit. Thanks for all the kind words, everyone. I appreciate it, and it's nice to know there are a lot of kind folks out there. And thanks for the silver. Story 5. I don't know if my input counts, but here we go. I am the son of a single father, now in my 20s. The court deemed my mother unfit for raising me a year after granting her full custody. My dad took me right away with no questions asked about my mother. While I was growing up, my father had a hard time playing the nurturer role. To make up for it, he was tough on me and instilled many life lessons and tools to get me through growing up, like personal finances, credit, etiquette and manners, how a man should hold himself and stand his ground, job interviews, discipline, and so on. As I was growing up, I often noticed the looks from teachers, friends, and other parents when I told them I had no mother. Right away, I knew that being a single father, my dad faced stigma and unfair presumptions. So I have to say, as the product of a single dad, men don't get enough recognition for being single and taking care of their kids. As I grew older, I noticed how isolating it must have been because mothers have support groups and one another, but I don't hear much about single father support groups. So I knew it must have been hard on my dad, and he would not take a single cent from my mother. Plus, I was often harassed by my school administrators, asking if he had ever been verbally abusive, an alcoholic, a child beater, or there for me. I thought that constant yearly evaluation was such nonsense growing up. My dad may not have been as nurturing or sensitive, but he taught me how to be a man and always made sure I was taken care of, with food, clothing, and regular doctor's visits. Friends would often ask me if it was hard growing up without a mother, and I don't know what that even means or how to answer it. Story 6. Background. My daughter lived with me from the time she was 9. Mostly, it was awesome. Her mother and I had been divorced for many years before she moved in with me. I had gotten sober 3 years before, and when she was 9, she asked to live with me, 4 states and 2,000 miles away from her mom. We never had any negative interactions with her school or her friends' parents, which was pretty great. One embarrassing thing that did happen, though. One day, when she was 11, her best friend's mom called me and said, "I don't mean to intrude, but have you noticed that your daughter has breasts?" I was kind of shocked and told her no, not really in the habit of looking at my kid's chest. She suggested that maybe just this once I should. When she got home that night, I did. My first thought was, oh no, how did I miss those? I took her to a really nice store that night to get her fitted for a bra. She was super embarrassed but handled it with a minimum of fuss, and was happy that we went. Such are the tribulations of being a single dad. Story 7. It's just a silently unspoken bias when it comes to doing things with and for my daughters, like I'm not supposed to be there. The best example I have is Girl Scouts. Now, I'm a registered lifetime member Girl Scout and approved as a helper parent. That means I have gone through the background checks and all that. My daughter's troop is excellent. They're all super cool and we get along great. But when I took my daughter to a district-wide campout last year, it was a totally different matter. My daughter asked me to go, so I agreed. I was one of two dads, and they stuck us in absolutely the farthest place they could away from the rest of the campers. It was literally a 10 to 15-minute walk to my daughter's campsite. The moms who came along slept in the cabins. I didn't expect that, but figured I'd at least camp outside the cabin. The attitude from the rest of the volunteers and leaders was clearly that my presence was being tolerated, but by no means welcome. Despite helping in the kitchen making lunch for the campers, virtually nobody acknowledged my presence or even spoke to me all day, which was okay since I was there for my girl. But still, there was no need to make me feel out of place for trying to be involved. I've had a similar experience at birthday parties and other events where I don't know the parents beforehand. Usually, it's moms who take the kids, and while I've never been made to feel explicitly unwelcome, it's kind of clear I'm the odd man out. Wow. Thanks for all the kind words and support. Friends, kills me how many of you have similar stories. Keep being great dads. Trust me, your kids are taking notice. Story 8. Assumptions and treatment from others. When people find out I am a single father, they usually assume I am the one that caused the divorce of my marriage. It is actually not the case. There is no sympathy from others the way that single mothers seem to be supported. To be clear, most single parents should be given sympathy and support. It is a hard job. Story 9. Traveling alone with your young child when you really need to use the facilities. You have to take the poor kid into the men's room with you because you can't leave her outside alone. She has to keep her eyes closed as you take care of business. Plus, you don't want her looking at the guys at the urinals, and you are watching out for any of them that might be weirdos. Ducking stressful. Moral of the story is poop at home single dads. Story 10. I have an 11-year-old, and he worked really hard at reworking and painting his room over the weekend. So I brought him out for pizza as a reward. When we were there, an old man came up and started questioning me if he was actually my son. Perhaps this is more of a young single father issue than an older one. Story 11. Not me, but my dad constantly got stopped by people when he was out with baby me and my baby sister. It doesn't help that he looks nothing like us. He has blonde hair and is white, while we have brown hair and are very tanned, or is covered in tattoos. One time, a lady tried to take us off him because she thought he had taken us from the park, and when he wasn't having any of it, they called the police, who then had to get my mom there to say that it really was my dad. Story 12. Got another one for you. Your kid's school will by default list the child's mother's contact information in their database, no matter how much of a mess she is. Mom's going to get all the mailings, email, and phone calls unless you get your name added too. Story 13. I wish the court took a deeper look at awarding custody. I wanted the kids. She wanted the child support. My ex-wife, the mother of my sons, slept with my stepdad. This was the reason for our split, and for years I never told anyone and buried it. I lost 6 years with my boys, and they never knew why I left. They are older now, and I have gently explained what happened and started rebuilding our relationship. For the past 2 years, they have been living with me, and I am enjoying it very much. Story 14. My dad was a single dad. I'm grateful for him, but he blew through his 401k to raise me. He worked in the restaurant business, then was laid off. Now he's happy driving a bus at Disney and working to rebuild his retirement. When I started my period, that poor man, you'd think he was running through a minefield when going down the tampon aisle to get me pads. He'd run to the cashier and throw them at me if I was in the car. I appreciate him helping me, of course, and understand the time period he grew up in, but dang. He did the best he could trying to help raise me. He had full custody but wanted me to still see my mom, so I lived part-time with both from 4 to 18. I feel like as I've gotten older, it's been easier for him to open up emotionally. Before, it would be a brief subject, then never talk about it again. Now that I'm about to get my registered nurse and telling him about various emotional difficulties or things I've seen in the hospital, he tries to relate and give stories he's heard of or experienced, so I appreciate it. Story 15. Thank you for the insights. I will have my own classroom next year, and I will take a lot away from this, especially about inclusivity and effectively communicating with parents. I am saving this thread to remind myself that one of the first questions I should ask parents is, who, if both, will be the primary contact point? Story 16. I am currently a single father. I was a stay-at-home dad getting an engineering degree. I made $1,800 a month from the GI Bill, which was more than my ex was making working full-time. People always praised her for supporting the family, and I got dirty looks. Story 17. I've had my daughter on my own since she was 7 months old. The first issue, like some folks already brought up, was finding bathrooms with changing tables. Now that she's almost 5 years old, she can use the bathroom by herself mostly, but for a solid year there it was this awkward dance of either trying to get her in a men's room when it was empty, or waiting outside the women's room while she did her business. The problem is, she would sometimes get stuck, and I couldn't really go in and help. So I would usually either ask a woman on her way in to check on her or to cover the door for me while I cleaned her up and got her out of there. I would never ask white women, I'm white for the record, because they would usually be the ones to give dirty looks or talk to a manager or whatever. The second big one for me is that it seems like as a man, my boss can't seem to grasp that after 5 p.m., I'm done working. I'll answer phone calls and respond to emails, but 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is my time with my daughter. I don't care how many reports are backlogged or how many times a client called you asking for something. You have me from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. After that, if you expect anything else, you will be disappointed. Meanwhile, my female coworkers leave early every day to go pick up their kids, and they never hear a word about it. Another big issue is just the constant alienated feeling. Every kids' function I go to, I'm usually the only dad there, especially at gymnastics class. I'm not very extroverted, so it's difficult sitting there feeling the sideways glances. Also, my ex, who lost all custody due to severe drug issues that led to the courts only allowing her supervised visitation every other weekend, is constantly threatening to take me back to court. And it's terrifying because the courts are so slanted against men that there's not even the illusion of fairness. Which brings me to the last point, in that I'm essentially trapped in my home state. I can't just take a job anywhere and pack up and leave. I have to stay right where I am. I feel trapped here, working a job I hate, and all my goals and ambitions are essentially dead in the water. There's no way the state would let me take my daughter too far from her mother, nor do I have another $13,000 to spend on legal fees to do so. Story 18. I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but I'm genuinely happier alone. However, I feel like everyone thinks I'm depressed or upset about it, especially since my ex is marrying my previous best friend. I'm happy for them. I don't give a. Story 19. I'm a girl, but my brother and my dad are both single fathers. I'm so glad that I'm able to help where I can with my niece and younger sister. All of you single dads on here, you're doing an amazing job. Story 20. Not really a hardship, more of a strange encounter. I volunteered to help at the school Christmas party for my daughter's class. There was a mom in charge of the party, and I was given the daunting task of bringing a specific drink. She discussed this with me repeatedly, even going so far as to ask a family member if I could handle bringing in said drink. For the record, my daughter was in the 5th grade, and I have been a single father with physical custody of her and my son for 6 years at this time. I assured her that I could handle it and went on with life. Story 21. The only 2 hardships I can think of over 18 years of raising my daughter nearly single-handedly from babyhood to happy, healthy adulthood were the time some middle-aged woman yelled, "Zip up her coat," at me on one brisk fall day we were out walking, and that everyone seemed to think I was looking for a new mother for her when all I wanted to do was date like any other healthy guy in his 20s. A bit of child support would have been nice, but you can't get blood from a turnip. Story 22. My dad raised me alone from age 11 onwards. I went to a few schools growing up because we moved quite a bit. I'm also a female. At each of my schools, I was the only little girl being raised solo by my dad, but there were plenty of single mothers. All my friends' single mothers aggressively hit on my dad. It made him very uncomfortable to the point he stopped coming to parent-teacher conferences or anything school-related. My friends' mothers would even just drop by my house to say hello to me but really try to see dad. It was messed up and made me and my friends super uncomfortable. It might sound like a trivial complaint, but it really affected me and dad's involvement at anything where mothers were going to be. He would say, "I can't drop you at Nicole's house anymore. Her mom groped me." Or, "Can I drop you outside the birthday party? Sam's mom keeps messaging me and won't stop." My friends would even pull me aside and say, "Is your dad interested in my mom?" Dad never dated or even entertained the idea of dating a friend's mom. After he left my mother, he was dating girls half his age and loving life. Get your thirst in check, single mothers. Stop embarrassing yourselves. Story 23. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I used to take her to male public washrooms with me when she was younger because I could never find a family washroom. Now I stand outside the door while she does her business in the women's washroom. I've taught her very well how to avoid the nastiness of public washrooms, like covering the toilet seat and not touching anything she wouldn't touch at home. Every once in a while, she'll come right back out because some washrooms are just disgusting. It's always a cute sight seeing her come running out after she's done her business. Though, she has this little smile that lets you know you make a good team. We need more family-friendly washrooms or daddy/daughter, and vice versa washrooms in public places.